Have you ever decorated a Christmas tree and kind of paused and thought, why are we bringing a tree inside? Or maybe you've hunted for Easter eggs and wondered, what on earth do eggs have to do with any of this? Well, it turns out that so many of our most cherished Christian traditions have histories that are way older and, honestly, way more surprising than you might think. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and uncover the hidden pagan roots of Christianity. So, where do these traditions really come from? It's such a great question because for so many of us, these practices just are Christian history, right? But what if I told you their origins are part of a much, much older story? A story of different beliefs and cultures all mixing together in the ancient world. To really get the answers, you have to picture the world that Christianity was born into. It wasn't some kind of blank slate. Not at all. It was a world that was already buzzing with Roman gods, ancient Germanic rituals, and deep Greek philosophies. And all of them had their own powerful traditions. And this right here is the absolute key. Early Christianity didn't just show up and erase everything that came before. Instead, it did something much smarter. It absorbed and repurposed all these meaningful practices, breathing new life and, more importantly, new meaning into them. And the best place to see this in action? Our holidays. Okay, this is where the connections get so obvious, it's kind of mind-blowing. Let's take a look at some of Christianity's biggest festivals and see how they line up perfectly with much older pagan celebrations. So let's start with the Roman festival of Saturnalia. This was a massive, week-long party in late December. I mean, look at this. You've got major feasting, widespread gift-giving, and just general merriment. Sound a little familiar? You know, it was a lot easier for early Christians to place the celebration of Jesus' birth right in the middle of this already super popular winter festival instead of trying to create something brand new from scratch. And guess what? We see the exact same pattern with Easter. The name itself probably comes from Eostre, a Germanic goddess of spring. Her festival was all about celebrating the rebirth of the world after a long winter. I mean, what better theme could you possibly ask for to connect with the spiritual rebirth of Jesus' resurrection? It's perfect thematic fit. But this influence goes way deeper than just holidays. It goes right to the very core of Christian ritual. Think about the Eucharist, the sharing of bread and wine. It has these clear echoes of ancient pagan meals that were all about connecting people with their gods. It's really an adaptation of a deeply human act of communion. All right, so this wasn't just happening with festivals. Let's shift gears and look at symbols. We're talking about powerful, universal signs that were already thousands of years old, and we're about to get a whole new identity. Now, this one might be the most surprising of all. Long before Christianity, the cross was already a widespread pagan symbol. It stood for life, the sun, fertility, these incredibly powerful, fundamental forces of nature. But then, one of the most powerful transformations in history happens. Early Christians took this common symbol and basically poured the central story of their faith into it, turning it into the ultimate emblem of sacrifice, of redemption, and of the promise of resurrection. Just an incredible rebranding. And here's another great example you'll recognize. Across the entire ancient world, people looked at the dove and saw a symbol of peace, wisdom, and even love. It was often connected with powerful goddesses. So when early Christians were trying to figure out how to represent the Holy Spirit in their art, the dove was the perfect candidate. It already had this shared cultural meaning of peace and divinity. They just gave it a new, very specific job. But the influence wasn't just about festivals and symbols you could see. No, it also shaped how people thought about spirituality itself. About how a person could actually connect with the divine. Take Gnosticism, for example. This was a really early and very different kind of Christian belief system that blended Christian teachings with all sorts of Greek and Egyptian mysticism. The Gnostics believed that salvation wasn't just about faith. It was about getting this secret divine knowledge they called gnosis. And that whole idea of secret wisdom, it had deep, deep roots in pagan mystery schools. And then you have practices like theurgy. You can almost think of it as a kind of spiritual technology, a set of rituals and meditations designed to create a direct union with God. And it borrowed heavily from pagan traditions, which just goes to show how intertwined these worlds really were. Okay, so after seeing all of these connections, what's the big takeaway here? Why is understanding this history so important for us today? Well, ultimately, it shows us that the boundaries between the pagan and Christian worlds were just incredibly fluid and porous. It wasn't like one world just stopped and a new one began. No way. Ideas, symbols, and practices, they all flowed back and forth, creating something entirely new in the process. So what should we take away from all this? Well, first, this wasn't just simple copying. It was a creative synthesis. Second, it proves that faith never exists in a vacuum. It's always in a dynamic conversation with the culture around it. And finally, far from diminishing these traditions, knowing their real history gives them a richer, deeper, and honestly a more human story. And that leaves us with one last thought. This process of cultural blending, it never stopped. It's happening right now, all around us. So take a look at the traditions in your own life. What forces are shaping them today? And what do you think they'll become tomorrow? Thanks for tuning in.